Hello there and welcome to a brand new episode of Talk Music Talk with Boyce. I am Boyce. I am your podcasting host. Thank you so much for listening. If this is your very first time listening to Talk Music Talk, it is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form conversations with people connected to music from different genres and different backgrounds, established and emerging singers, songwriters, music therapists, music journalists, and so much more. On this episode, a pleasure. It is the third time for Soft Glas, 1S, Jõao Gonzalez, that is the name of his solo project, singer and multi-instrumentalist. We spoke on the eve of his new album called How Strange. You should check out our previous episodes, episode number 90 and 149, link in the show notes, of course. It was a pleasure catching up with Jõao. What did we talk about? We talked about his past year during the pandemic, his creative process, songwriting. We also talked about the satisfaction of learning to do new things, becoming more comfortable with his singing, and we talked about the making of How Strange, what inspired the themes, the inspirations behind the album. And after the conversation, you're going to hear two of my favorite songs from How Strange, Fraud and Prudence and Poise. Another wonderful conversation with Jõao. We recorded this actually a few days before the Grammys. Jõao worked on his dad's Grammy-nominated album in the Latin jazz category. His dad is Gonzalo Rubalcaba, a celebrated jazz pianist. In the conversation, he talks about what it was like working with him. And as a bonus, you can hear his dad practicing piano in the background. Here it is, without further ado, my conversation with Soft Glas, Jõao Gonzalez. Enjoy. And you're like the 1% who uses a microphone.
Oh, man.
So thank you.
Come on, man. You know, I'm a like producer and engineer.
Yeah. Literally one other person has used a mic. Everyone else is just from the laptop. So
yeah.
Thank you for going that extra mile.
Of course. It's the least I can do. I've been doing this like video series where I interview like my friends and collaborators who are part of the project, and it's just really funny. It's the same thing where like depending on who I call, I know I'm like, oh, I know they're going to come correct with a really nice mic and a camera, like a nice backdrop, and then others not so much. They're like on their phones, you know.
Well, dude, okay. I'm interviewing musicians, so I feel like they all have microphones. Like, there's no excuse for the people
there
I'm
is
interviewing. They all have microphones.
Yeah, but it is like very different though. Like being. Because I know like friends of mine who are musicians who have like really nice expensive gear, like they just don't even know how to like use Zoom, you know, how to even like set it up so that you can use that stuff with Zoom. So I do understand. It's okay.
My audio editor had to help me out with that. Like at the beginning of the pandemic, I'm like, what am I gonna do? I can't like see people in person. So he like helped me, and then he was like, well, no, you can split the channels so you can. They're not on one channel, which I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's so nice, man. It's so great to be able to still do what you love to do and do what you want to do, you know, just find different ways of doing it. Not being limited by these like insane circumstances, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So how have these circumstances been for you the past year? And I haven't seen you in 3 years or something like that? Or?
Has it been that long?
It was... because we did an interview for Late Bloom and then Orange Sky. So it was Orange Sky. I think that's the last.
Yeah, wow, man. It's been... it must at least be 3 years because I think Orange Sky came out like 2017. So that makes sense. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So how's this past year been for you? And
It's been good. It's
personally, artistically?
Personally, it's been... I mean, thank goodness my family hasn't, you know, been affected by the virus. Like everyone's stayed healthy and stayed safe and just, you know, taken quarantine very seriously and done everything we can to just limit our exposure. And so personally, I can't complain because that's really the number one thing is like everyone's health being, that's just a top priority, you know? Yeah. And if everyone's healthy, then it's just like everything else is just a bonus. So that's been great. the fact that like my family's been good and healthy, and then creatively and artistically, it's just like not very different. Obviously the touring, not being able to tour, it's been tough. But I mean, other than that, it's just my process has always been very, singular and personal. And so I don't miss like going to a studio full of people. I wouldn't really do that anyway, usually. And just, it's like, there's just no excuse to not put the time in anymore. You're home all day. And for the last year, it's been like, it's almost like if I don't make time to make music, it's just, that's like on me. What excuse do I have?
Have you been more productive?
I've been the same productive.
Okay. I get that. That's good.
I think at first I was more productive than I've ever been. I think when quarantine first started last March, I was working on a project with my dad. I was like helping him engineer and mix an album. And that was like, we were working like 10 to 12 hour days every day for 3 months almost. It was the most intensively productive I've ever been. And then since then, it's just been like normal. I'm working and making music like as normally as I would otherwise.
You gave me my segue because I was going to ask you about your dad, because he was nominated for Best Latin Jazz Album. Congratulations. Yeah, which you worked on, dude. So are you a Grammy nominee too, or just your dad?
I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's very weird. It's like very funny. But yeah, because I am credited as engineer and as editor, I'm technically like, if they do win, I would get a little Grammy statue, which is crazy.
Excellent. Plus to get one with your dad too.
Oh man, that's like what it's all about. I mean, the Grammy nomination is cool because it kind of materializes that work that we did, and I hate the word validate because it doesn't, like, we don't need validation beyond like, making something for the sake of making it, but it does almost like put it into a cool context. The fact that like, the Academy like is recognizing the work that we put in, which is like a very cool thing. It's an honor,
And your dad is, so people don't like.
Yeah.
Who are they talking about?
This guy, Gonzalo Rubalcaba.
Okay.
He's a pianist and composer and incredible artist.
Yeah, and we can actually hear him in the background, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Don't tell him to stop.
Yeah, he's scoring the interview.
He meant to do that. So how did you get involved with this? Is your first time working with him on one of his projects?
On his projects, yeah.
Okay, how did he pull you into that?
I mean, it was like a perfect storm of sorts because, really it's because of the quarantining and the basically like the fallout from not being able to tour. This was last March. I was supposed to start touring my album Stunned. So we had a tour set up for basically like the rest of spring and all through the summer. And obviously like everything got canceled, and so I was home, and my parents didn't count on me being home. They had been working on this album that was like a live recording of a show they did in Japan the year before. And their plan was to finish the album, which was like post-production and like adding extra instruments and re-recording some stuff in the studio, while I was gone on tour. So my tour gets canceled. All the studios closed down. We're just kind of like, well, now what? My parents are just like, oh, we're going to have to record everything at home now because all the studios are closed. Joao's home. Maybe he can help us. And that's how it started. It was almost like very simple, like, hey, we need to record this little piano bit. Do you think we can record it at home? Do you think, you could help us track some piano here? And my engineer, Adam Strauss, was kind enough to he like shipped over all his microphones because I didn't have any microphones here at home. He shipped over all his microphones, we did like a crash course on how to mic up a piano through like FaceTime. And then we did it. We like recorded the piano that they needed. And then after that, it was just like, oh, that sounded good. Maybe we should re-record this other piano. And then maybe we should add percussion, and maybe we should add this. And slowly in the course of like the next 2.5 months, we ended up tracking piano for almost every song. We ended up tracking percussion. We tracked synths and a couple. Oh, we tracked backing vocals.
Okay.
We ended up tracking a whole bunch of new stuff, and I accidentally fell into this like engineer / producer role. You know.
So is that cool. Overdubs on the live album, or?
It's a cool like hybrid because most of it is live. But for example, there were instances where, like maybe they wanted to replace the backing vocals that were sung live with new backing vocals just for the sake of like quality of sound, for example, or same deal with like the piano. There were parts where the piano was just like out of tune from playing the show, you know? And my dad, being the perfectionist that he is, he was just like, I really want this piano to sound better than it does. And so we would, you know, basically like erase the piano from the live recording, which was not easy because that piano was like bleeding into all the other mics. So Adam Strauss, my engineer, helped with like audio wizardry to like clean up all of the other channels and get the old piano out of those channels and then overdub the new piano. So we had to basically match the piano sound so that it's seamless. Like it's kind of crazy. You can't tell where new piano starts and ends because we mic'd it up almost exactly the same. We like made sure we treated the room to kind of simulate this jazz club in Tokyo. And it was just like a lot of work went into it to make it invisible, you know,
that's
to make it not noticeable.
So is that your mom who's the vocalist on the album?
No, that's an old friend of my dad's. They grew up together. Aymée Nuviola, but they've known my family. I mean, Aymée's known my family for my whole life because they were friends like from school. I think they went to like middle school, high school together.
Okay.
But no, my mom, it basically just like managed and organized everything that has to do with the album. She was just a big, it was really cool. It was a family affair, really, if you think about it, you know.
Well, that's beautiful, man. So do you learn anything about your father as opposed to, you know, your dad versus working with him professionally on his project? Like seeing different sides of him.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching my dad work. I would go to the studio while he was recording his albums and just, you know, he's a very intense presence. He's he's a perfectionist and he knows exactly what he wants. And he, in the cases that I've seen in the studio where he's like producing an album or like musical directing an album or performing on an album, he's just so, he is just so incredibly masterful at all of those things that it's almost like overwhelming and kind of intimidating. Yeah. From the outside looking in, you know? Yeah. But then I work with him for the first time on this project and I realize that he's actually, you know, probably the easiest person I've ever worked with. Yeah. Because he genuinely trusted me to make decisions, to make creative calls on things. And there was this level of trust and of like creative respect in that process that it's not that I wasn't expecting, but I just I was always so intimidated, you know, by his greatness as far as his process is just so intense. The way he prepares, the way he practices. I mean, if you hear him in the background, he's been at this since like 9 a.m. You know, he practices like 8
and it's 3:33 now as we record this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I learned that it's very different that it looks very different from the outside as it does when you actually work with him. And it was just it was a dream come true for me because to have him again, trust me with so many decisions. I mean, there was a point where he would just, we would get a new mix and he would just call me into the room and be like, hey, listen to this, make some notes and send them back. Like, he didn't even need to, sometimes he just trusted my ears. He trusted my taste and my decision making, that he put a lot of that, like, that creative responsibility on me, which I just, like, I mean, it was a little scary at first, but I appreciated it so much because it gave me a lot of confidence, that he would trust me with that.
That's great. So for yourself, what do you think you learned in working this project that you may take into what you're doing for yourself?
I think it's just his approach to the process itself of making things. I'm trying to apply that to my own work and my own career as much as I can, because it is tough. I mean, it's tough to not get frustrated with the process sometimes. If you have an idea of exactly what you want out of a song or a video or an album or anything, along the process, if you're not getting exactly what you want, or what is coming out isn't matching exactly what was in your head, it's very easy to get frustrated and almost like shut down. And I think in the past I have done that a lot, where if I'm not executing things the way I would like to execute them, my frustration is like almost overwhelming, and I just can't work, but the patience that he has for the process itself is incredible. I mean, like, there were times during the recording and mixing of that project where it felt like we were banging our heads against the wall at this problem for days and days and hours, until one day it just worked, and it clicked. And I think that perseverance and that patience to kind of let the process play out is something I'm going to be able to take away forever. And even now, I mean, like, working on videos for my album, working on the mixes for my album, there were points where I didn't know if I would ever see the end. But I had to be patient, and I had to stay positive. And that's another huge thing too, is staying positive through the frustration, because, in that moment of frustration, it's very easy to almost like mistreat yourself, mistreat the people you work with, whether it was like Adam, my engineer. I know in the past, maybe I'll just like lash out and be like, this is terrible, man. Like, we got to make this better. But, I think I'm learning to be kinder to myself and to, my surroundings when I'm frustrated, because perfectionism can just be a very, it can create these vicious cycles, and just rounding off the edges a little bit of that cycle has been something I'm trying to get better at.
How do you push through when you're doing what, most of or all of the music? How do you push through that?
I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily needed to push. It almost feels like the opposite. I feel like a very strong force, almost like pulling me through it. And a lot of times I feel like I'm just kind of along for the ride, where I'm like, okay, I guess like we're gonna make this album now, and it will just like it kind of unfold before me, and I'm just kind of trying to keep up with it, and I have ideas for how I want to execute things, and then sometimes again, like, those ideas, I may not execute them exactly, but eventually they get there, and it's just about like letting that process play out, because I don't know if I've ever had to like work to create. I have had to work to create something I'm proud of, or something that I'm like happy with, but the actual act of creation is just like that's not like a source of friction for me. That's not there's no problem there for me,
which is good, right? So the new album is How Strange, right? Out March 19th. It'll be out by the time this airs. And in the song Cyclones, I just have to point out, there's a lyric video. All your videos are great, by the way, for the album.
Thank you.
And, but Cyclones, you mentioned Badly Drawn Boy, and no one ever name checks Badly Drawn Boy. At least not in the States. I mean, he's probably bigger in Europe than he was ever in the States, but Talk about badly drawn boy, dude.
Yeah, I think that's in Rust. I think in Rust I name check badly.
Oh, the Rust, yes.
Yeah, but I man, and you know what? I knew that you would catch that. Every time we have conversations about music that we're into, it's almost like, I remember last time we did an interview, I had like Beach Boys playing, and you were just like, yeah, man, I love this. This is one of the greatest albums of all time. Like, of course. Yes, dude, you get it. So I am not surprised at all that you're hip to Badly Drawn Boy.
Oh, yeah, that's a boy.
Man, yeah, I came across his music in college, my freshman year, and I was living in the dorms, just having like the most stereotypical college experience, you know, just like living in the dorm on campus with my best friend as my roommate. And we would, like, we always, since we were little kids, we would get really hype about sharing music with each other, just trying to find something that the other didn't know about and almost like being competitive about it. And this was around the time that Pandora was huge. Pandora Radio was like what Spotify is today as far as music discovery. That's how I discovered most of my music. Was Pandora. You would like set a station based on an artist, and then Pandora would automatically, through its algorithm, like recommend songs and play radio based on that. Which is like so normal now. Like it's just the most basic thing.
Yeah, it was wild then. Like, oh my God, it knows me.
Exactly. How did it know I would like this?
It sees me.
Yeah, exactly. But that was, I think that's how I discovered Badly Drawn Boy. I think I forget what station. Maybe it was like I don't know, like Elliott Smith station.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know.
That would sound right. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
People should definitely check out Badly Drawn Boy. So he did the About a Boy soundtrack. That's great. The Hour, the was it?
Bewilderbeast?
Yeah, Bewilderbeast, the debut. Yeah, so people should check Badly Drawn Boy. Is he still around? What's he doing?
Yeah, he just put out an album last year, and it's really good.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to check that out. Thank you for telling me, dude. Good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned radio, college, and as I was listening to the new album, which I think is great, dude.
Thank you, man.
I feel like I'm not trying to insult your past work, but I think this is your best work. So,
that's not insulting at all. That's like that's the goal, you know, is to get a little better every time. But I appreciate that so much.
Sure. So as I'm listening, I'm thinking this album feels like the spirit of college radio to me. So does that resonate with you anyway? And I'm saying this is a high compliment because I was a college DJ. So the album really resonated with me. That like, oh, okay, this is like turning on college radio.
Yeah.
With a good DJ.
Yeah. Yeah. With you DJ.
Thank you.
I think, yeah, man, I think like I'm usually very open to letting my influences kind of like peek out, you know, and show themselves. I think I wear my influences on my sleeve, and I'm very, I'm just like very grateful for music in general. And I'm just like a lover of music first and foremost. Before a creator, I am like, if I had to choose between listening to music for the rest of my life, but I couldn't make music, or making music, but I couldn't listen to music, I would pick listening every time. So that said, I think with this album, I just allowed certain influences to kind of like show their face a little more than before, you know, and these are influences that are from when I was in high school or middle school or college. And yeah, I was just a little more open about letting, and I was able to execute those influences a little better. I like, you know, learning how to play guitar, just exploring the songwriting through guitar allowed me to explore those influences from that time, which a lot of it was like guitar based music, which whether it was like Badly Drawn Boy or, you know, like emo, like pop punk stuff from when I was in middle school and high school, and like, yeah, I don't think I started working on this album and said, okay, I'm going to make a college radio influenced, like kind of quasi rock album. And it wasn't like that. It was just like I was able to pay homage to those influences a little. I was just able to this time, you know, where maybe in the past I wasn't able to.
Oh, okay. Did all these songs come kind of clustered together that you were writing them?
No, man. This is probably the most kind of spread out that I've ever made an album. Like some of these songs I started in like 2018, and since starting that song, I've released albums. You know, and whereas other songs, I mean, I think one of the songs on the album I started and finished within a 1 month span, like last year. So it was it's kind of all over the place. Some songs took about 3 years to finish. Some took like a month, you know. For example, like Gentle Rome, I think was one that I started in 2018 and was mostly done, you know, like 2-3 years ago, but it never felt, it just like didn't have a home yet, where I felt like Stunned wasn't really the time to kind of put that out, because it just, the themes of the album didn't line up as well as I wanted to with that song. So I've always, like in the back of my mind, this album, I've always been trying to make this album, you know, and I finally was able to finish it, but I've been working on it for a very long time.
Okay. Is it sonically you were trying to get to something, or the themes of the album that you were trying to get to, or both?
I think it's more so the themes. I think that I had this very clear idea of what I wanted to explore with this album. I mean, I think I had the name picked out. I had the cover photo. I had a lot of it done for a long time. But I just wanted to make sure that I explored those themes as thoroughly as I could, and as completely as I could, because I did want the album to feel like, you know, there was some sort of narrative or resolution where it can begin somewhere, it can have a journey, and it can end somewhere. And it all makes sense. It all feels purposeful, because I didn't want to just put out a collection of songs kind of like alluding to something. I wanted it to feel like purposeful. And that takes time, man. It takes time to thoroughly explore an idea like that, you know?
What are some of the themes, or collectively what you were trying to say with the album?
I think about 3 years ago, I started getting hit with like pretty intense, like fear of aging, not necessarily my own aging, but like more so just the people around me in my life, like whether it's parents or grandparents or other family or friends or loved ones. It's just, I think I was 27, and it finally hit me that I wasn't alone in aging, you know. It wasn't like every birthday that went by wasn't like, oh, I'm older. It was more like, oh, everyone around me is older too. And it started getting scarier and scarier. And I remember having kind of this crisis where maybe in like 2018, it was like a paralyzing fear where I was just like scared to even like talk to my parents, because I was scared of like breaking down crying. And then like, what's wrong with you? And I'd just be like, I don't please, like, I don't want you to keep aging. Like, I don't want to, like, you know, I don't want time to just like keep going forward. This feels so like unfair. It feels like it just, I remember that period of my life just being like, feeling like there was a sense of doom kind of over my head. This like ticking clock, just like constantly ticking down. And that's kind of what like sparked the album. And I wanted to explore that, and I wanted to explore as many sides of that fear as possible. And so how like that fear affects me personally, how it affects my relationship with people around me, how it changes my perception of like what love is, and like what fear and anxiety is, and like why I feel certain anxieties as I get older, and how those anxieties differ from when I was younger. And so those are all things that I kind of wanted to allude to and explore in one way or another. And yeah, it takes time, and it helped like moving back home.
Florida, right?
Yeah, I moved back to Florida in 2019. And the idea was to like live here for a couple months and then move to LA. And then just like, you know, obviously like COVID happened and then like that kind of like delayed everything. But that time allowed me to kind of like live home for a while and be able to see my parents every day and be closer to my family and confront a lot of those fears and a lot of those anxieties a little more directly. But it took a while.
Where do you think those fears originated from? And was the fear that, you know, we realized, okay, we're not immortal, people we love are going to go one day, and that there's nothing we can do to control that?
Yeah. And it's just like that simple. It's such a absolute truth of life itself. That's like the whole deal. You know, with this thing. That's the point, is like one day you're born and then one day you die. And then like there's a bunch of stuff that happens in between, and that's it. And like that's what life is. And so it's just like I think like when I started realizing, not only realizing that, because obviously like you know you're aware of that, but when I started feeling like that in between time really doesn't take as long as you think it does. When you start to feel the years kind of like, you know, thinking back to like something you did a year ago and feeling like, wow, that was a year ago? I feel like that was just yesterday. This is terrible. Like if that's how fast a year is, like 60 of these things is not that long, you know? Like the feeling I'm feeling now, with how short a year feels, like there's not that many of those that we get. And you know, there are people that will get a lot less than me. Like, and it's just, it's just like it was just a trip to come to terms with that. And I think the first instinct was to kind of shut down and like, you know, almost be paralyzed by that and not be able to enjoy that time that you do have with the people you love, because you're just so worried and scared of like losing them that you can't even enjoy being with them, you know, when you are with them. And so that was something that I was like navigating, but that's kind of like what triggered, you know, that fear.
Okay. Just the initial thought of it was the trigger. Yeah. Okay. And coming out of that, was it being with your family this past year? Did that help you like come out of it?
I don't know if I can ever really come out of it. I think more so just like I've been thinking about it for so long now that I'm very familiar with it. Yeah. And it's not as novel and it's not as paralyzing. It's almost like I can function with that fear now. It's still there. I mean, it'll always be there. I think if you like, if you love people, I think part of like kind of baked into that love is that the fear of losing them. It's like, it's just kind of part of the equation of love. And that, I mean, you can apply that to anyone. It's not just like parents or grandparents or people that are older than you. It's like, you know, your loved one, like my girlfriend and my brother, my sister, like my best friends, like, you know, we have to, it's so corny, man. It's so like, it's such a cliche, but like, I've realized that you really do have to try to make the best of the time that you have. Yeah. And I have like on a like a micro level, I have been trying to be more conscious of that. Like every time I hang out with anyone that I love, I'm trying to just like fight the urge to be passive, you know, and fight the urge to just kind of take that time for granted. And I'm trying to just like focus on the moment a little more. Yeah. Which isn't always easy, you know? Yeah. Because
it's like you never know when you're with someone, this may be the last time you see them, and it's like you want to be fully in the moment and enjoying that and soaking it all in, as opposed to like just letting it pass.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I have to like think about it so morbidly as like, oh, this is the last time I'll ever see you, probably. And because it is true. Like, obviously it is a probability that anytime you see anyone could be the last time you see them. But it's more so like, even if I get to spend 50 more years with you, those 50 years are still going to fly by. You know, it's still not enough. Like, no matter how much longer we have, it's still not enough.
Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of like where I'm at.
Okay.
You know?
Does it give you a deeper appreciation for loved ones?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Like and the again, upside of that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it does like take like awareness and presence, because it's, you almost have to like fight the urge to take that time for granted. And I could say this now and then like an hour later, like be on my phone when I'm with my girlfriend, and it's just like, it's very easy to kind of forget that sometimes. But it does, like, I'm trying to like drill it in my head that, you know, if I really want to combat those fears, I have to like be proactive about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Did you share these feelings with anybody?
I think so. I'm a pretty open fellow, you know. I usually tell people how I feel.
How do people respond to that?
I mean, luckily, I think in my life, I have a lot of openness, you know, with everyone in my life, and I think people respond, you know, very. It's almost like a same kind of thing. You know? That's the thing. The more I talk about this album and like its themes with people, the more I'm realizing everyone, in one way or another, has those anxieties and those fears, and for some people they're able to like kind of cope a little better, and other people I'll talk to them and they'll just be like, oh my gosh, like same, I can't even
because I have a cousin, she's 79, she's gonna be 80, and I was like so thrilled. I talked to her Monday, and she was like, Tuesday she was getting her first of her COVID shots vaccine.
Oh, amazing.
And I'm like, yeah, good, so that's like one less thing I have to worry about you. God. How do you distill all that you're feeling these past 3 years? How do you distill that into the lyrics of an album? And what areas do you want to focus on those feelings?
I think with this project, I made a conscious effort to write very like detail oriented and just kind of go small as much as I could, because if I try to take on those themes and those ideas on this like macro level and just be like, just talk about existentialism and talk about, you know, life and death on that scale, it can be very hard, and it can be hard to kind of like express yourself precisely that way, because they are such like grand and general themes. But I think the way I approached it was I just tried to focus on these like little moments that represented those fears and anxieties, and just like try to focus on like conversations I had with people or memories I have that represent an emotion better than any like thesis could, you know. And it's just like, I think I don't know if it comes across. I don't know if I was like successful in you know, translating those fears and anxieties through the lyrics, but I think that's just the way that I decided to approach it, was just try to be as specific and as like singular as possible, and not take these things on like, you know, on a macro level. Just try to like stay micro.
Okay. Was that something you worked the hardest on, maybe the lyrics?
I mean, harder than ever before.
Yeah.
I don't think I could even say I was like songwriting before. I think I was like writing lyrics to songs, but I think on this project I really wanted to challenge myself on a songwriting level, because I mean it's a whole nother art form, you know. It's something that I also admire so much. When someone's a really good songwriter, it's like, wow, how are they able to express these like extremely complex and like beautiful sentiments like through, you know, in 3 minutes, in 4 minutes. It's like crazy to me. And so that's something that I studied a lot and put a lot of energy into. And I have like a notebook full of the like pages that I wrote all the lyrics on, and it's like my treasure. Like, I'm so proud of that notebook, because you could see like the process of me actually writing the songs, and it's like a very cool. It was like a cool new challenge, because as you know, we've talked before, I'm like, I love challenging myself on projects, and I think the songwriting on this project was like my biggest challenge. And my voice is always a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna get to that, but because I remember that. What was your studying process for songwriting and lyrics?
I think it was just listening to music and having the lyrics open. And I don't know about you, but I know I've always had that issue where I don't really listen to lyrics when I listen to music. At first, it takes me like a long time of listening to the same song until I like notice the lyrics. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is actually so well written. And it was just about that, like revisiting a lot of my favorite songs that I have grown to love the lyrics and trying to understand, like, why did I like those lyrics? Like, why did they resonate with me? How was the song structured? Like, what perspective is this being told from? How do the lyrics interact with the music itself? That was another thing, is like, I wanted the music and the lyrics to kind of have a marriage, so that like the story's being told in a parallel way, you know, where each song will like have dynamics musically, but also dynamics lyrically. And so it was just like a lot of listening to my favorite songwriters, whether it was like Elliott Smith, like we were talking about, or I listened to a lot of like Death Cab for Cutie, because Ben Gibbons is like a really good songwriter, and then Jenna Bell has incredible lyrics. I listen to her music a lot, and just like putting more effort to understand why certain things worked for me, you know? Yeah.
So for songwriting, so were you then sitting at a piano or a guitar and getting it out that way first before you even get to the sonics, the sound of it?
Yeah, all the songs were written on the guitar, basically. I think all of them, maybe, but I couldn't even tell you what wasn't. Yeah, I think they were all written on the guitar first, and just guitar and vocals first. And it was finding a guitar part I liked, and then a vocal melody that I liked, and then finding the lyrics in that melody, you know. But I did want to strip everything down so that if I had to play the album just on a guitar and vocals, like it would be possible, and wouldn't have to depend on the production to tell the story. The song would kind of speak for itself, and then from there I would focus on the production. But
because if you get the voice and the guitar right together, then it's like that's an actual sturdy bones right there. And everything else just is gravy, right? I was going to ask you about your voice, because I know it's been a process of you getting comfortable with your voice, and that, say, like, if, from the first album it's more like instrumentals or guest vocalist to like where it's all you singing. Like, how did you get to that process, and your comfort level, has that grown?
I think the comfort level thing is just kind of forcing myself to do it as often as possible. And I know that there's just certain things that the voice is able to do that nothing else can. And there's like, there are certain ideas and certain emotions that I felt like I could more easily express, or more effectively and efficiently express through my voice. And there's also like the personal aspect. I mean, if you hear, there's always like a barrier when you hear an instrument play, because it's like it has to come from the mind to like usually the hands, and then like through the instrument, and then out of the instrument. And there's just like a lot of, you know, the routing is just like very complex. But with the voice, it's like this thing that comes directly from your body and out into the world. Like, there is no barrier. It's almost like, you know, there's no filter. And that, like, that's always been really interesting for me. And I've always been very jealous of like other musicians being able to use that tool. And I think at a certain point in my career, I was just like, okay, I'm not crazy about my voice, but I want to use it as a tool. And it's just been like a lot of fun to to explore that too.
Was first album, Jõao, thinking one day I want to be able to, I'm going to sing my own stuff? Was that always there?
So. Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah. There was, I mean, when I was working on my first album, there are songs that like never saw the light of day where I would sing on them. I just they were just like really bad. And I'd, sake of everybody, I decided not to put them out. But I think that was always kind of the plan, is just to get to a point where I could. I remember seeing, this was like maybe 2015. I don't even know if I had ever put an album out yet, but I was in LA and I saw Moses Sumney perform, and I was like blown away. And obviously he's just like an incredible talent, and his voice is incredible and his songs are great. But I was blown away by the experience of that show and seeing how effective it is when someone can sing you their songs. It was just like, it was so powerful. And I remember coming away from that thinking, man, I would love to do that. I would love to one day just be on a stage with a guitar and a microphone and be able to like sing my songs. That was so inspiring I'll never forget that. And hopefully one day I can tell him that he almost like inspired me to become a singer-songwriter just because of how powerful that show was, you know?
Yeah, because you did do you did do a tour when you were singing. Like, wasn't it a few years ago? Like your first time singing? Okay.
Yeah.
Was that terrifying?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Still is, every time. Every single time.
See, what I love is you saying that having a fear and like just going towards that. I mean, is that your style? Has it always been you? Like, there's something I want to do, I'm scared to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I think it's just I'm a Taurus and I'm very stubborn, and I'm just like, if I want to do something, I'm gonna, try my best to do it. But I'm also like I don't have like a false sense of confidence. Like I know I'm very aware of my limitations, and I think that's like where the fear comes. It's like my awareness of my limitations, but like my stubbornness, not letting those limitations like stop me. But yeah, I think that's what makes life exciting for me, is it's like doing something that a year ago I couldn't do, or whenever I'm able to think back on anything that's like, oh, I didn't know how to do this 6 months ago, and now I do. That's like, you get so much fulfillment out of that. And I think I'm constantly trying to chase that, where it's like, I didn't know how to play guitar and now I do. That's like that's a beautiful thing, that you can just like learn to do things or like get better at things,
Dude, I've been teaching myself piano since August.
Oh my gosh, how's it going?
Great, dude. It's just like so much fun, like to not be able to do anything with my left hand, being right-handed, and like now, okay, I'm not gonna be playing live anytime soon, but but be able to do stuff like simultaneously with both my hands and not have to look down. It's just like, wait, 6 months I couldn't do this. This is like crazy.
Do you watch videos of yourself when you were first starting, and you're just like, you idiot?
I listen to I use this app called Melodics. It's a desktop app. And like you can listen back to what stuff you played, and it's just like, oh my God. But like to hear it like just progress, like 6 months ago I couldn't do this, right? Like, I just hit like 200 days. So 201 days ago I could not
do it. So exciting. That's like the most exciting thing and to see your progress like that, like laid out in front of you. Has to be very inspiring too. Like you want to just keep getting better. It's like you saw how much better you've gotten. Now you just want to keep getting better, so that 6 months from now you can listen to the stuff that you were doing today and be like, that guy sucked. You know,
they say life isn't living if you're not scared of something, doing stuff that kind of pushes you and scares you. So
yeah.
So, the album's great, dude. By the time this airs, I may, in my introduction, be like a Grammy winner.
Oh my gosh!
Jõao Gonzalez. That's a real possibility.
I'm not putting any stock in that. Like, honestly, because
that's this Sunday.
That is a Sunday, yeah. But I really, I could not be more confident in telling you that, like, I couldn't care less, man. It's just like it was such an honor to work on the project with him. I got so much like pure joy and fulfillment out of that experience. I'm just trying to in general be a little less like result oriented and just be more like process oriented. And I think that process was like infinitely valuable, you know, and then whatever happens, man, it's like, I didn't even think that we were like, even the nomination was just like a huge surprise. So who knows? Maybe we'll not. See. But regardless,
I'll keep people posted on the other side, dude. So album's out March 19th. Plans for the rest of the year. You've got like your visuals are always amazing. People should know that. It's like it's not just the music, it's like the videos. You do many movies, and what do you plan for the rest of the year once the album comes out?
Well, we have a video for one of the songs, Terrified of Time. Video will come out the day of the album, so I'm like, as of the taping of this now, I'm still like working hard with Madeline Leshner to like finish editing it and making sure it all, you know, looks exactly how we want it to. But you know, I'm really excited. I just want to keep making stuff, man. It feels weird. Like every time I'm about to put an album out, it almost feels like, okay, now we're done. And I hate that feeling. I want to just continue to make stuff, and you know, I don't know. By the time the album's out, I'll probably be working on the next one and working on the live show for like whenever we can perform. And so
you'll be all locked and loaded for whenever that is, right?
Yeah.
Did I leave anything out?
Dude, as always, you're incredibly thorough.
Thank you
so much, man. I'm like, every time we get to talk, it's just I always am just so happy that and like grateful that, you know, you take the time out to listen to my stuff and to like want to talk to me, and I'm just gonna always be very grateful for you. Thank you.
Dude, I appreciate it. You're one of my favorite guests. This is the third time, and it's good. You make great music, and it's also people should know you're just like a nice guy. Like,
oh, thanks. Thank you, man.
I can sense these things. So, but this was a pleasure. Enjoy. It's always good to catch up with you, and I love what you do. And best of luck, continued success, and a great 2021 for you.
Thank you so much, man. Good luck with piano. I'm really excited for your journey, and send me updates like every month. Just send me like a new piece, and I'm gonna ask you to play some piano on the next album.
Okay, see, that'll be me pushing through a fear. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jõao.
Thank you, man.
House on fire, sitting bedside, thinking about how the days will go by, and how I always seem to feel the same. I know I worry, I think I'm caring, but lately I've been feeling guilty, but really what I'm feeling is ashamed. What a fraud I am, telling the world I'm full of care, though I feel like it might stem from something else. Though I thought that my love was a noble affair, I feel like it might stem from something else. Can I really say this question. Doubt fills up your mind. Oh, why? What a thought it is, telling yourself you're full of care, and you really might be. Who's to say you're not? And just because there's a chance I think about myself doesn't mean my love, my love, my love, my love isn't pure.
And there you have it, too, from the Soft Glas album, How Strange, out March 19th. You heard Fraud and then Prudence and Poise. I hope you enjoyed the music. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Jõao and his dad did not end up taking home the Grammy, but that's okay because I still like getting to call Jõao a Grammy nominee. I think that's very cool. And a correction, Jõao is so nice, he didn't even correct me when I mistitled his album. Instead of Orange Sky, it is called Orange Earth. My apologies to him for that. Make sure you follow Soft Glas, Jõao, on Instagram at Soft Glas, and that is glass with one S. As for me, I am also online. I'm on Instagram at This Is Boy, so you can follow me there. And you can find out more podcast information on talkmusictalk.com. More podcast information, and you can stream every single episode. Call to actions for you. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and Audible. Just search for Talk Music Talk. Wherever you happen to listen, please leave a 5-star rating and or review to help expose TMT to more listeners. There is also a Talk Music Talk app. It is free wherever you like to get your apps. Again, just search for Talk Music Talk. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, and there will be a next time, this one's for you, Liz.